I'm Hope Lynes here today with Student Music Network interviewing Nell Mescal. Nell, you are only 19, which is just amazing. You're really rising up in the industry. It's amazing to follow your journey. For now, while we still kind of can, I'd love to introduce you to our audience. So, can you tell us a little bit about how you got into music?
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. I've been writing and kind of singing my whole life, and then I started taking it seriously when I was like 12 or 13. Um, and I take that like very lightly. Like I was writing the worst songs imaginable and just being like, yeah, this is my EP, this is my album. But yeah, my mom got me a voucher to record some songs, and then from that, I just released them through CD Baby. And then my manager somehow found me, and thank God. But yeah, I don't know, it just kind of came out of nowhere where I was like, okay, this has to happen. Um so yeah.
And what were your kind of like inspirations behind making it a career? Because like sometimes when like we're in our late teens and we're like, oh, I really want a career in the creative arts, it can be quite overwhelming to like make that choice. So how did you decide to make it a career and like really go for it?
I think it just was something that I like felt like I had to do, which might come across as like cringy of being like, oh, it was my calling, but it did really feel like there was nothing else that I kind of needed to do as much as this. And so I was just very lucky I had the support to kind of go and do it, which I know not a lot of people get. And usually the first thing you'll hear when you say something like that is, oh, get a degree first. Um, but I genuinely think like the most important thing to do is like if you have a dream, you have to go for it while you can, even if you just try it for a year and see where it takes you. But I really do think that like that was the biggest thing for me, was like I just have to do it, so I'm just going to do it, and if it fails I come back, but if it doesn't, then like I'm better off for it. But yeah, I think it was just a decision I had to make, really.
Well, it's fantastic that you made that decision and it's given us some fantastic music. Homesick just came out mid-January. Can you tell us a little bit about what the song's about?
Yeah, I wrote Homesick on a writing trip in LA about being homesick, but it didn't really, I don't know, I wasn't really feeling homesick at the time. Like I was really excited to be in a new place and all that kind of stuff. But I went into this session and they'd kind of started this like really upbeat track, and I was really afraid. Like it was like probably one of the worst like first like 10 minutes in the session I've ever had, because I was like, oh, I can't do this. I'm an imposter. I don't know how to write a song over a happy beat. And then we kind of were changing a few things about it. And then I was like, okay, well, the only way I can be like happy and upbeat is if I just make something funny, or like try and just like kind of take the piss out of feelings that I had. And I went through my notes and saw a note about being upset about how everyone else was dressed because they looked really cool and I like looked like a mess when I moved to London. So I was like, oh, let's just like try and write that. So that's how like the first three lines came about, because I was just like, let's just write about being insecure because that's funny. But yeah, I mean, like the track is like upbeat, but it's quite a sad song actually. So I thought that that was like the perfect way to kind of bring the two together, of being like homesick but being excited about what could happen. So yeah.
I think it's really nailed the target audience. I wish it wasn't so sarcastic really because it really resonated with me and I thought it was really beautiful lyrics in it. I think it's going to relate to a lot of people. When you're like making music, is it like just for like how you feel or do you always think about how it's gonna like relate to other people?
I think like the end goal is always to connect with people and like to like hear a story from someone being like, oh, this is how this helps and all that kind of thing. And but I think I go into it being like, how can I help what's going on with myself right now? So that's usually where it all stems from. It's like I'm really upset and I need to just figure out a way to like not be upset. So that's usually just like at the piano or something. But yeah, I think I mean every song that I've ever heard is probably about something else, and I've just connected it to a different thing in my life. So yeah, the end goal is just for connection, I suppose. So yeah, I would hope that people would connect to it.
And you said about the piano there. I found it really interesting how Homesick's got kind of like a India edge to it. Like it's got that little bit of like rock and pop underneath it. Is that, I know you said you were scared when you first heard the beat. Is that something you do again? Or are you like solely like, no, my safe space is in singer-songwriting?
No, I mean, like I write mostly, I don't play guitar, which is such a, like, I sound like such a fucking loser because I'm like, oh yeah, I like write mostly on guitar because I try and work with a lot of people that are guitar based, but whenever I'm alone, it's like piano. But I feel like the next kind of steps for me music wise have just been like all over the place in like a great way because I'm trying not to box myself in too early. Which is like hilarious because you'll see things like someone said one of my songs was indie folk, and I was like, no, it's not, but okay. Like,
I'll
you
take
know what I
it.
mean? Like, yeah, so you just kind of have to go with it. And like I wrote a song a few weeks ago that was like very country, and I was like, okay, don't know who's gonna like this one, but we'll
You could do
see.
anything, like just take up every
Yeah,
genre until you find the one that like, yeah, I'll do a full album on this one. Or like
yeah.
every song could be different. Like you've got full creative freedom to do whatever. It's awesome, really.
Yeah, I definitely do feel more comfortable at the piano just because that's like, but even at that, like I find myself, I was kind of self-taught because I hated lessons growing up. So when I started doing it myself, I was like, oh, this is not great, but we're just gonna go for it. So sometimes I'm like, I don't like playing piano in front of other people because I'm like, they can definitely play better than me, but on my own it works. And yeah.
And your first track, Graduating, came out last year. It's much slower and it's got that kind of like piano raw feel again. Um, how is your songwriting process? Like, is it solely linked to sitting down with the piano? And is that going to be like the future for you? Do you feel like you're always going to have that songwriting process?
Yeah, I think it will always kind of begin somewhere like that. I mean, like a lot of the songs that like I've ended up changing to guitar started on a piano, and that's just how I feel like when I'm on the piano, that's like where I can actually get the best lyrics because it's like quite slow and it's really like it's quite annoying because you're sitting there and I'm really impatient and I'm just like I want the song to be done now. But you really have to sit and think about it. And you're forced to kind of look at yourself in a different way because it's also just yourself, so you're like trying to put your best foot forward for when everyone else hears it, but also just trying to keep it like as you as possible. So yeah, I feel like it will always be the piano for
There's
me.
something really beautiful about the piano. I don't know, maybe it's because I can't play it, but it just sounds really like traditional and beautiful, and it sounds like a really like raw way to make music and like a really honest way to make music. And
Yeah, I mean, I do wish I could play guitar. That me saying it's always
everyone
gonna
can play
be
guitar though. Not everyone can play piano, so there you
no,
go.
I genuinely think it's the opposite way around. I because the piano is just like you just hit them, but guitar is like I can't. I can kind of get the chords, but I can't strum.
I'm
So
like,
I
have you
have
ever
loads of
played
songs.
Guitar Hero? And it's like you got to do the strumming at the same time. I always
Yeah,
forget it. I can do the chords, but so I'd be awful on the guitar.
yeah.
Not that I'm comparing music writing to Guitar Hero at all. But
It's
it's
valid.
no, it's valid. It's February now, so it's not too early to talk about festival season. And I've seen you've got announced for a fair few. Is this like your first like proper festival season, or have you done a couple over the last couple of years?
I feel like it's my first festival season that's like consistent because last year it was like I had just released graduating. So there was like one or two which were like amazing and so fun. Like um my first gig with the band was I opened for Violet Skies, and then the next day we were playing Barn on the Farm, which was like really, really cool and just really exciting because I'd never really thought that that was a possibility. And then all of a sudden you're like in a rehearsal with a band that are like incredible and know so much more than you, and you're really just trying to get every piece of information. Like I think I showed up to my first rehearsal without like a cable for my piano and without a stand, so I was really unprepared and just like a deer in the headlights. But yeah, it was still really fun. And so now I'm excited. Like we've done a few tours now and we've done a lot of shows, and I'm like, oh, okay, festival season will just be really fun. And I think it's one of those things where like you go and you're just seeing all your friends that are playing as well, so it's always like a really nice community. So yeah, I'm excited to get stuck in this year.
Out of the ones that are announced, I'm not going to make you announce something that's not announced.
Yeah.
Which one are you most excited to go to?
I mean, I just announced Kendall Calling, which is
Yeah,
exciting.
that's
It's
really
been something
cool.
I've been like,
That's like a big one as well. That's really
yeah, it's
cool.
exciting. And also I'm going to Ireland to play Indie Fest in Cork, which is really exciting because I've never played a festival in Cork in Ireland before. So yeah,
Oh
I'm
really?
excited for that.
Oh,
Yeah.
that'll be a nice like full circle moment. That's really
Yeah.
this question's a bit cringe, but I found out about you as an artist because like your tweets kept coming up on my suggested page, and it's like,
So
and then I
sorry,
saw like your
firstly.
Twitter was like, it was like, don't go on here, like this is my private Twitter, like and you don't know I'm an artist, but like it kept coming up, like I didn't even follow you, and it kept coming up, you might like this artist, and then it was just like the like random tweets about Twilight and stuff, but I found it really hilarious and honest,
So
and it like
embarrassing.
No, but it intrigued me. And do you think it's important to have that like honest social media presence? Because like it's worked.
Well, I mean, like I had like 2,000 followers on there, and also there was like a glitch on Twitter, and like a week before my Twitter started getting like seen by lots of people, I was like suspended on Twitter for no reason because I was like, when I like fought back, I was like, hey, like all I do is shit post about Gilmore Girls. Please give me back my account. And so like I literally had no followers on that when my tweet started getting traction, but I did like I was like, please stop following it because this is where I just like talk about like the most like what everyone does on Twitter, and some people should probably not do that, but I just enjoy it. Like I found social media like has really changed for me, because at the very beginning I would like get a lot of hate and stuff like that, and it was difficult to deal with, and then all of a sudden people are just really nice, and like trying to keep that and like trying to keep a sense of community on like apps like that is really important, just to make everyone like nicer to each other, I suppose. But I love Twitter. I wasn't a fan of it until I started tweeting about Twilight, which is unfortunate for me. I
I feel
don't
like
like it.
yeah, sometimes Twitter can feel so professional, and you're like, no, I just need to not tweet everything you think because that's how
Yeah,
you get cancelled.
no one
But
should do that.
just tweet fun stuff, and same with your Instagram. Like it's just a load of random posts, and I think it's really honest and it's a really like relatable way, and I really admire you for keeping that up.
Thanks.
And please keep that up, even if you
Yeah,
don't
I
think you're
will.
doing it. Just keep being honest. And I definitely say that like you're already like a success story, and like, it's definitely a bright future ahead of you. But for like a lot of our audience are quite young singer songwriters. A lot of them are students. What like advice do you have for them trying to make it out? A lot of them are at uni, so like it's not like their like sole thing, but like based on your own experiences, like what advice would you give them for like breaking in?
Um, I feel like I think I wasn't as brave as I should have been at the very beginning, because there's no shame in what you're doing. Like I feel like a lot of people will like go into it being like, yeah, I sing a little bit, but they are also like writing like incredible songs, or like don't know how to write songs. So they're like, how do I do it? But they don't want to say it. And I genuinely feel like the only way to get out of like a rut or to get to a place that you weren't before is to actually do something, which is like the most basic thing to say, but you really do just have to step out of your comfort zone, even if it's just like the tiniest step. Just do it, because also just like reaching out to friends, that's like, even now, like I think that's how I gain the most experience and the most I learn the most, is like just reaching out to my friends and listening to them and seeing how they produce and stuff like that. So I really do think it's just like try and create this community around you and just like collectively push each other to like do something. Yeah, not just pretend that you don't do it, because it could be really amazing.
Oh, that's lovely advice. Thank you for that. And thank you for speaking to me today. I
Thanks so
think you've
much.
got a really awesome 2023 coming up, and I
Thanks.
can't wait to see it.
Thanks, I appreciate it.